Hello and welcome to Redefine Possible. My name is Doma T. Pungo, and I'm sitting here with AARP's Associate Director of Advocacy and Outreach, Terri Worman. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes, you are.
Yes, Terri Worman is an expert on all things fraud, fraud prevention, and scams. No, she is not the scammer, but she's the one that's going to keep you, keep your money in your pocket. And of course, Redefine Possible is a partnership with AARP Illinois, Donda's House, and the Chicago Sky of the WNBA. And without further ado, first, thank you.
You're quite welcome. I'm always happy to talk about frauds and scams.
Absolutely. Well, most people aren't. So.
Yeah, well, that is part of the problem.
That is part of the problem. Well, tell us what your organization does and how you're working to combat the prevalency of frauds and scams.
Yeah, you know, I've been with AARP since 1995, and we've been working on frauds and scams that whole time. And recently we started the Fraud Watch Network, which is really, it's an online website that people can go to. And it's for all ages. It's for, you don't have to be a member. It's free. And so we've got a lot of information there, updates. You can sign up for the Fraud Watch watchdog alerts to get more information. But, you know, we're out in the community doing presentations and really trying to educate people on what's happening.
Very, very much so. You know, when I think about frauds and scams, we get a lot of warnings from our seniors about, you know, mailers coming through. Make sure you don't open this package if it says to do X, Y, Z. Don't believe it. We get a lot of information about emails and such. And I think the prevailing concern is that, or idea is that it only affects seniors. Yeah. Is that true, or is that a misnomer?
You know, I mean, certainly that seniors are targeted for some things, and often because they're at home, or they may have access to money perhaps quicker, that they are targeted. But no, anybody your age, it's happening to all of us these days.
And it's hard to believe because we feel like we understand the internet, right? Like, you know, I feel like I use my phone more than anyone else. You know, I use social media, use emails. I get the internet. Of course, I can't succumb to a scam. So what are some of the scams that you see that young people or anyone pretty much falls victim to?
Well, you know, and I think when we talk about online kinds of things, that people learn how to use the devices, but they don't learn about the privacy settings. And the kinds of things that you're doing online and who has access to it. And so that we don't pay attention to setting our privacy settings and making sure that, you know, people don't have easy access, or changing their passwords on a regular basis. Or so we know how to use it. We often don't know how to protect ourselves. And so that's part of the problem. This time of year, there's a lot of, you know, it's sunny, it's warm, so the home repair fraud kinds of things are coming out. The people coming up to your front doors, you know, of any age, trying to get you to switch your utilities to something else, or you know, front doors. People really have to be careful, you know, with people that are coming there.
So let me know. This one is something that was really prevalent in Woodlawn. These people who will come to your front door say that all we need is your social security number or one of your bills, and we can switch you over to a utility that will save you some money. And so I'll tell the young man, you know, give me a phone number or give me a card. I'll use that card and I'll call and I'll follow up if this is something I'm interested in. No, we need your billing information right now. What is a telltale sign that if someone comes to your door trying to switch over your utilities, that it is indeed a scam?
Well, I mean, first off, I always tell people, don't open the door. I mean, especially, you know, if you have a screen door or something, keep it locked if you're going to open that. But, you know, people should be showing you the kind of identification that should be prevalent for, you know, for that particular thing. And I always find a telltale as soon as they say, oh no, I really need your, now you're pushing me. Now it's telling me that you don't want to leave, because if you leave, you know I'm not going to call you. And then that's the problem, because, and the more they push, the more we feel like we can't say no. And they know that.
Got it. What kind of scams do you typically, well, you talked about the home scams. Those types of things.
Yeah, home repair scams are really prevalent
for the summer.
For this time of year. And whether you own your own home or not, that sometimes I call them gypsy scams too, where individuals are going from spot to spot, and they might say, Damte, I've got I just did some work down the street, and we've got some extra materials that, we give you a special deal on whether it's your roof seems to have some shingles missing or whatever. And they're just going from place to place and trying to get into people's homes, or using other scams, so that, and with that people, you have to be very careful that often if there's one person at your front door, or they say, my friend and I are just going to come in and take a look and give you an estimate, that while you're being with this one person, the other person is like going around your house looking for prescription drugs, money, all kinds of things like that. And so they're trying to divide your attention and to try to get in that way.
Well, if you have any questions for Terri, 312-738-1060. Again, that is the number. The phone lines are open, 312-738-1060. And again, we're talking to Terri Worman, the Associate Director of Advocacy and Outreach for Aarp, Illinois. You talked about that being something that we see in the summertime, and that you've been in this business since 1995. The fact that not much has changed since 1995 to now, it's kind of surprising to me that these same scams continue to work. Why do you think that is, and what are some changes that you've seen throughout your time working in this work, and what are some things that have been the same?
I think one of the reasons why it works is that criminals know probably more about us than we do about them. And one of the things that in recent years we've been talking to criminals, and they've said, what we have to do is get people into what they call the ether. That emotional zone where your smart brain cuts off. So whether it's greed, whether it's fear, whether it's excitement, whatever the case might be, I need to get you there.
So the minute I say I can save you money,
and
I get excited and I light up.
Yep, they know that they're Or your grandchild. Hi, Grandma. This is me. This is grandparent scam. I'm in Mexico, and I had an accident, and I need money. Can you send it to me? And the grandparent is like worried. They're scared. They're whatever. Now I've got you in that ether, and that really gets it. That and online stuff, which I know we'll talk about more.
312-738-1060. We have a caller. Caller, what's the question? We have a caller there? Looks like we lost them. But let's go deeper into online scams. And I think that this is really important because as we talk about, I'm in the media, and we talk a lot about fake news stories and fake websites that tend to look like real websites, by a scam called phishing. Can you explain what phishing is and how to look out for it?
Well, and that often you can get that in an email, online. You can even get it in the regular mail. But these days what they're doing, it could be, here's this special offer, click on this link. It could be, this is your bank, and, we've had a security something, so we're calling to make sure to verify your information that we have, and they'll give you a social security number, and somebody will go, oh, no, that's not it, it's... Oh. And you just gave them your social security number that they really didn't have. So they're phishing to try to get information out of you. And get you to click.
I think we have that caller back. Caller, you're speaking with Terri Worman, the Associate Director of Advocacy and Outreach at Aarp, Illinois, and we're talking about frauds and scams are redefined possible. What's your question?
Hi, I was wondering what 2 steps I can take to keep my grandma from being scammed. She actually said she got a call and they hung up and she was trying to call back.
Yeah, there's a couple of scams out there, including like the IRS scam and so forth. What I'm finding interesting these days is that in the past, often criminals would not leave a message on the voicemail. If somebody wasn't there, they would move on. Now they're tending to leave these threatening phone calls. If you do not call us today, that the judge has just given you put out a bench warrant for your arrest if you don't take care of this right now. And so often criminals now are using the scare tactics.
Gotcha.
Which moves people, or, you've just won or whatever. I'm often saying to people, Grandma, if somebody calls or if they leave you a message, call us first. Don't call them back. Call us first and talk to us about it. Because often that's one of the best things for any of us. We get a call, we get an email, you get an offer. You take a little bit of time.
Yeah,
You check with somebody. You take 24 hours. If it's, this big thing that I just won, I guess it'll still be there tomorrow.
Right. And if it's not a scam, it's usually okay if you call back.
But it's better to check with people.
Yeah.
Somebody that you trust.
And what can they call you at AARP Illinois?
Actually, AARP we right now have a toll-free number nationally that people can call that is 877-908-3360. 877-908-3360. That's our Fraud Watch network. And what's nice about it is that people can actually call and say, this just happened to me. What do you think? These are actually peer-trained individuals on the other end of the line. Or in the case of the caller, being able to call that number and go, you know what, my grandmother just got this call. I don't know whether it's real or not. What do you think?
Wow. And that's the fraud. And you also have a Fraud Watch network online.
Yes.
That folks can go to.
Yeah.
So they just go to aarpillinois.com.
Actually, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network.
That's awesome. And the number, once again, is 877-908-3360. I'm going to pivot really quickly here to some events that you guys have coming up. So this number here is the number that you can call if you want more information on AARP events. And a little later in the show, we're going to let you know about a fraud prevention event that AARP is hosting. But for now, we have a caller, I believe. Caller, you're speaking with Terri Worman of AARP Illinois. We're talking frauds and scams. What's your question?
Hi, I received a letter from the IRS saying that they were holding up my refund unless I proved ID. Now, how can I find tips on finding out if something's right or something is fraud?
Actually, it's curious that you called in because my colleague and I, as we were driving over here, she just had that issue. The IRS scam, what has happened is that these criminals have probably put in a refund in your name ahead of you.
Wow.
And and that's part of the IRS scam. And so when you put your return in, now there are two of them. So if you got the letter, then it is very likely that that's them. If my colleague said that they needed to go to the IRS to a particular place in the letter, bring your ID, your tax return, so that you can prove that in fact that's you, and then they'll start processing your refund. But that's what has been happening, is that the criminals have been getting information and putting in fake returns early, so when you get around putting yours in, now there's two of them. So they are making you do that.
Along those same lines, we see a lot of credit card scams that happen and things that can rupture our credit report. And it's very hard to go back and, right those wrongs with your bank, to talk to credit agencies, credit bureaus, and get that. What is the process for if I've already been scammed, messed up, made a mistake, gave out my social security number? How do I communicate with my bank and my credit agency to make sure that I get back on track?
Well, I think if you've suddenly realized that there's some sort of fraudulent thing that happened on your credit card, you need to immediately call the back of the card and to the fraud department and report it. And often I have to tell people, when you get your credit cards, it's a good idea to take a picture of the front and the back of your cards, because if your wallet gets stolen, you don't have that information about who to call.
That is a great suggestion. But
Don't carry it in your wallet while you're at it.
Right. But so this is my question then. Are there any apps that you recommend then that we store perhaps some of these pictures if we have sensitive information? One I use because I've noticed that if I'm doing different opportunities like these, I might have sensitive documents.
Right.
Take pictures of those documents so that I can, give those to whoever my client or vendor is.
Right.
I use an app called KeepSafe is what I prefer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it requires a code to get in it. But
Yeah,
are there any that you recommend?
I'm not as much of an app person as my father, who's 82.
Oh,
I often use things like Dropbox or
that's a good one too.
or I have even a copy at home, tucked away. For many people who may not be app types, that can be the easiest way. Is just not put it in your wallet or your purse and carry it around, so you've got it. But if that happens, for a lot of us, identity theft, etc. If you're a victim of identity theft in particular, the FTC has a really good website, identitytheft.gov.
Identitytheft.gov.
And it has, from the very first that something happens, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and it goes A to Z.
Wow.
On the steps that you should take and who to call and here's the form that you can do and so forth. Yeah, identity theft in particular is really hard to take care of because there are so many agencies that are a part of it. But as soon as you have a sense that that's what's happened, I think they're one of the best ones to go to. And when you talked about credit and credit card fraud, there's a lot of us out there that are using debit cards instead of credit cards.
Yeah.
People need to understand that when you use a credit card, if there's some sort of fraudulent purchase that was made with it, you're only liable by law up to $50 of whatever that amount that the person might have used your card for. If you use your debit card, if you report it within 2 days, it can be up to $500
Oh, wow.
that you'd have to cover. And if it's more than 60 days, you may have to cover the entire amount. And so the protections are not the same for debit card as it is for credit card. And so people just need to be really careful that if it's an important purchase or you're out and about and you're making some purchases, if you have a credit card versus the debit card, that's a safer way to go.
That's a very good distinction. As we're getting away from both debit and credit cards, we're getting into this world of Apple Pay and PayPal. What are some of the scams that you're seeing in Apple Pay and the PayPal and the digital payment realm? They also have an app called Vivo. You've got Cash App, or I think it's maybe Venmo. But all of these different apps we can pay for things virtually. How do we protect ourselves in that space?
And I think what people need to be careful of is even what apps are you picking, because you can get a lot of things online and information, and you may get pop-ups while you're working online, and here's a new app, and often there are a lot of apps that show up like that aren't legitimate apps. They're fraudulent apps in the first place. And so if you take one of those, now you are setting yourself up. So some of the standard ones that you were talking about, being careful. It's interesting that people are often, it sort of goes into this whole idea of public Wi-Fis. And a lot of people are, at coffee shops, and they're doing all kinds of things on their iPads and their computers and their phones.
I'm guilty of that one.
And you're using the public Wi-Fi. And, not to say don't do that, but if you're doing any sort of personal stuff online,
banking,
banking,
okay.
accessing, passwords, etc., do not do those on public Wi-Fis. And here are a couple of reasons why. You may be at a coffee shop and you think you've just pulled up the coffee shop Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And it's actually a fake Wi-Fi. Someone else has set something up that's similar to it, and you link into it, and now you are, they have access to all of your stuff.
Wow.
The other thing that a lot of people do, they keep their Wi-Fi on all the time, and they may even have their phone set to automatically connect as you're walking around.
As you're walking around, yeah.
I turn mine off when I'm out and about if I'm don't need it on, because those fake websites, you may link to one of those.
Got it.
As you're walking around, and it's like, oh, cool, and I'm just doing
and even
stuff
with
as I
just
go.
your phone connected through Wi-Fi on one of these fake networks, people can get your information.
Yeah, because if you can set your phone so it doesn't automatically sync to other Wi-Fi's while you're out.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you're passing by and it'll sync with one of those fake ones.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Great takeaway. Another one we talked about, you mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to make sure we got back to it. Checking the privacy settings on all these different apps, even the ones that we trust, like Twitter, Google+, Facebook, etc. Talk to me about that. What are some of those privacy settings that we don't pay attention to that could harm us?
And a lot of people don't pay attention to their privacy setting at all.
Yeah.
And they don't go in and do that. And I have, actually for my phone and a couple of things, I actually have a secondary, it's annoying, and I get that. But if I'm going into something, I have to put in a code.
Got it.
I have to put a password in.
Every time.
So, every time, so that it's a way of being able to, so nobody can just get into it. Change your passwords on a regular basis. And,
there are also ways on Facebook to set it so that if anyone tries to log into your into your account on an unauthorized device, you'll get an email automatically.
Yes, so you can set those kinds of notifications too, so that you're always understanding what's happening there. Pain sometimes, yes, but better than,
It is far less convenient
than trying to fix your identity.
Yeah, that's true, Terry. You've got some events coming up that you want to let the community know about, but I have one more question before you get to that. On a day-to-day basis, what does an associate state director of a department this large do on a day-to-day basis to keep consumers and your constituents safe at AARP?
We do a lot of presentations out in the community, and we've also been doing shred events, as a matter of fact. Because, shredding your documents is one of the most important things that you can do, and this happens to be one that's coming up. So shred events, we work with law enforcement, we work with, we're constantly trying to get people up to date on what's happening, because, 20 new scams have already started since we've been talking today, at least. And the Fraud Watch Network, again, AARP.org/FraudWatchNetwork. We're trying to keep people up to date.
Definitely check that out. And these shred events are where you can have a party destroying all of your sensitive documents. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., that's in Madison, Illinois. Then you also have the ARP Illinois Microsoft classes, which rolls right into this. Avoiding frauds and scams is one of them now through June 20th. Those are taking place. You also have, once again, for more information on these events, head over to arp.org/IL, and you can find more information on that. Also coming up with our partners at Donda's House, the Bridges to the Blues Showcase at the Chicago Blues Festival. You guys got to be. Terry, how you going?
I may just be there. This Saturday, June 10th.
This Saturday, June 10th. Have a good time up there. Also, Projectus. If you want to be a part of that organization, visit pro-jectus.org. And they're doing some amazing things with aspiring fashion designers, photographers, editors, and artists. And iFest, one of my absolute favorite events of the summer.
I guess you're going to be there?
I'm going to be there. Are you coming, Terry? I don't know. I don't know if I get 2 commitments out of you at one time. Any last comments? Any last phone numbers, last comments, and things we need to know?
I say to people, don't think that you're too smart to get caught. I just got caught a couple years ago. We have to be vigilant. We have to know that the criminals, all they want to do is get their money out of us, and they will find whatever works for any one of us to make it happen. So we are all fraud fighters. We are the only ones that can truly keep, ourselves from being scammed. So hang in there and talk to each other. The criminals don't want you to talk to each other or to your family or friends.
And on that extremely scary note, we are finished. This is Redefine Possible. My name is Doma T. Pungo, and this has been AARP Illinois' Terri Worman. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.